Kedari Saran here, your host at the 10x Marketer podcast. Joining us today on the 10x Marketer podcast is Boris Beceric, a seasoned Google ad consultant and a coach based in south of Germany. With nearly 15 years of experience in the online marketing space, Boris has a wealth of knowledge to share. His journey began in the world of affiliate marketing before he quickly transitioned his focus to paid search where he built extensive expertise. These days, Boris strikes a balance between managing client accounts to keep his skills sharp and providing coaching and consulting services to brands and agencies. When he is not immersed in the world of digital advertising, you can find Boris enjoying the great outdoor with his wife and kids. He also keeps himself active through fitness and indulges his creative side by writing and producing music. With his diverse background and hands on experience, Boris promises to offer some great insights into the ever evolving field of Google Ads. We are thrilled to have him join us on the 10x Marketer podcast today. Boris, thanks for joining us. Could you start by introducing yourself and telling our listener a bit of background and expertise in the field of digital marketing and Google Ads?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me, Gertie, and it's a pleasure to be on. Um, Truth be told, that was such a nice introduction that should have told the listener pretty much everything they should be knowing about my professional work. So to quickly circle back and introduce myself, I am Boris. Hi. Um, I live in the south of Germany. I have a wife and two kids. I started out my professional career doing something completely different. So I used to work in a bookstore in my first job. And then we got disrupted by Amazon. That must have been sort of the first introduction I had personally to, oh, you can take goods and services and put them online and people are actually going to research them and sell them. And then by sheer luck after that, I started working for a travel company based out of the UK. And that's where I started my journey in online marketing, first as an affiliate marketer. And then I got trusted with a Google Ads account. It was called Google AdWords back in the day. So that's where I got my first start in online marketing. I stuck with it ever since. Did the usual stepping stones, working for agencies, then transitioning in-house. And then after a while, shortly after the pandemic hit, I actually started going out on my own. And I've been a freelancer and solo coach consultant for the last 3 to 4 years, basically.
All right, that's great, and welcome once again, Boris. I would like to start with a fundamental question. What
Yeah,
is
for
the
sure.
most important thing that is driving results on Google Ad these days?
So that's that's a very fundamental question, but it's also a very broad-ranging question. I think the most fundamental thing driving results in the ad account these days is consolidation and focusing and honing in on what really, really works. So if we think back to how we used to do things a couple of years ago, it was overly segmented, single keyword ad groups, really control the budget, control the bids, manual CPC, stuff like that. Um, Maybe that also served our little nerd brains because we love to tinker with stuff and see how it works exactly and break it and rebuild it again. That's not so much the case these days. So the thing that's driving results is really putting as much data as possible into a campaign, controlling the data that you feed the algorithm. So we're talking about conversion tracking, really have that nailed. We're talking about first party data, um, and focus the budget on the things that convert. And that's the fundamental aspect of Google Ads these days, in my mind. Not so much being hands on anymore, but controlling the inputs and let the automation do the work. And the other part of that is what's the best Google Ads campaign in the world if there is no landing page that delivers on the promise being made by an ad, right? So if you search for Nike running shoes, that's kind of the classic example. But your landing page isn't about Nike running shoes, it's maybe about red roses. That's not going to convert. Like, to give a very stupid example. So the landing page is almost as important as the campaign and campaign structure and the bidding strategy that's driving the traffic to the landing page.
Yeah, and even a slightest difference in the landing page message or the ad message would significant drop in your conversion rate.
Probably, yeah. People are so very tuned into what they expect to see on a landing page for any given search, I think. And if that's not reflected once they click through to the ad and actually land on the page, then that's gonna deteriorate your results. Pretty sure, yeah.
True. And so one of the services that you offer is coaching and consulting calls with the founders and agency owners.
Yeah.
Uh, if I ask you, what are the fundamental questions which almost everybody would ask in your coaching call like that?
It's funny. I think most of the people I get on calls with don't ask the right questions. So they ask about how much should I spend in order to get X result? What should the optimal account structure look like? Stuff like that, which is sort of an afterthought because the foundation should always be your business goals. So what are the results you're trying to drive with your Google Ads campaigns? And then the actual economics behind that. So for instance, if you're a D2C brand, what what is your overhead cost? What's your cost of goods sold? What, like, all these things that are going to determine whether or not your Google Ads campaign actually has the potential to even be profitable, right? Um, do they need to break even or drive a profit during the first order? Or is it like a lifetime value model where I can, send people to the website through a loss leader and they make the first purchase, but afterwards I can capture them with an email flow or however, and then turn a profit during the next 2 or 3 orders, stuff like that. So there seems to be a disconnect for me, in the sense that many people still seem to believe if I just set up Google Ads and drive traffic, I'm going to be able to turn a profit regardless. Um, I appreciate that's also something that maybe we as practitioners have told brands for a couple of years now, because everything used to be trackable, and there was attribution and stuff like that, which is breaking now. So yeah, I see it as sort of my role to educate people on that. Um, they should examine their economics and really work out if Google Ads is actually the right channel for them. In many
Yeah,
cases,
and
it's not.
then yeah, and then people also don't really understand the role of Google Ads in overall digital marketing landscape. So most founders see Google Ads as a standalone service, as something that can be separated, or that is the only thing that need to do in
Mhm.
order to get results. While in reality, it's the part of overall your overall digital marketing package. You can't do just Google Ads and expect things to go your way.
I agree. Ideally, it's not a standalone thing that you just do and set up. But I appreciate if you're a brand starting out, or you're just starting to think about, hey, maybe we should be running paid ads. We're getting like traction organically, whatever. Like, what's the next best thing that we can do to really put fuel to the fire? Um, and you rightfully said, in many cases, Google Ads is probably not going to be the first option. Maybe it's going to be paid social. Um, that's usually going to differ by the type of service or product that these people offer, and it's also going to be determined by whether or not there is actually people searching for that thing on Google. Because remember, Google is, like, typically is going to be a demand capture channel. So people go to Google and they type into the search box, I want to buy Nike running shoes. So that's a sign for me. All right, there's someone sitting in front of his computer, his or her computer, with a credit card in hand, probably trying to buy a pair of Nike shoes right now. Um, as opposed to something like a, I don't know, skincare solution or something, which is probably served better through a paid social ad. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't come up with a better example, but that's sort of the
Yeah,
differentiation that
so
I like to make,
it
at
it
least.
basically captures the intent that we are trying to say here.
Right.
I also feel that there's a lack of demographic data or an authentic demographic data with Google, and
Hmm.
that is the reason why Google's ad is not so effective when the search intent is not clear.
So, yeah, I think that's sort of a misconception, to be honest. So, agreed. Typically, with search campaigns, you type in a keyword and you get served an ad. That's absolutely the case. But Google has a wealth of demographic data that you can utilize for targeting. So we're talking about contextual targeting, demographic targeting. So you have all these options in the backend, but these options are better served through other campaign types. So we're talking display campaigns, demand generation campaigns. That's the newest brainchild that they released. Um, Not so much performance max campaigns, because that is not classical targeting anymore. So you're not saying, these are the people I want to reach. Please serve ads to only this audience. Um, but you're rather saying, this is the conversion I want to get. Now go out to the internet and serve ads to people who are most likely to make that purchase, right? Um, but there are absolutely ways you can utilize demographic targeting inside of Google Ads products that are going to drive relevant cold traffic to your website. And then, of course, the demand capture would have to be through other channels or campaign types for sure.
All right. So, one of the question that most founders, as you already rightly said, ask is how much I should spend and what are the results I can expect. So, I mean, that is the basic starting point for most people because they don't understand the overall scenario.
Yeah.
Typically, according to you, what is the learning period for any new ad account, and where you can see that yes, now is the time that I can scale and drive results?
So, okay. So that depends on so many different factors. That depends on the budget that you're comfortable to spend. Um, by saying comfortable to spend, I mean how many weeks or months can you spend that budget on Google without the expectation of ever turning a profit? So regard this as sunken cost, basically. Like if I did this for 3 months, could I afford it? Would it put me out of business? If it would totally put you out of business, don't run Google Ads in the first place. Do something else, like do flyers or like email, something else. But please don't spend money on Google. Um, and by the budget, as a proxy, that's going to determine the amount of data that I have in the account, right? And the amount of data that you have in the account is going to be determined by your click rate and by your conversion rate, pretty much, and by your conversion window. So if people typically convert in the same session, so they come on the website and then they see the thing that you're trying to sell, and then they buy it. That's the same session. If it's a product that needs a lot of explanation, so typically something that you'd see in lead generation, it's maybe a more costly service, then people are going to research, and that time to conversion is going to be much longer. So that's one thing to keep in mind from the get-go. If you set up an account in the lead generation space, you shouldn't be expecting immediate results because that window is much longer. So the first 2 3 weeks, at the very least, are just the learning phase, should we call it. So a learning phase can be shorter if it's an e-commerce product that's sought after and that people typically buy in the first session. And it can be much longer if it's a service or a product that needs more time from the consumer to actually research.
Okay, so in that case, the next question is, how do you remarket to your audience? How do you stay in top of their mind when they are not really ready to purchase?
I mean, there's many different ways, and the classic way would be to actually do remarketing. So that's the function inside Google Ads that follows you around websites on the internet. If you're e-commerce, people watched a certain product on your product page, and then you go on other websites, and then like all these pesky banners come up and be like, "Hey, you looked at me. Didn't you want to purchase me?" Um, there's totally other ways outside of Google Ads where you can also do this. So we're talking about email, of course, like send the email reminder. Hey, you put something in your basket. Did you forget to buy? 2 days later, hey, there's still an item sitting in your basket. Here's code for 15% off, stuff like that. Um, Again, in lead generation cases, that's not always going to be as straightforward. So you got to be a bit more adventurous, I guess. So you can remarket to blog pages, for instance. There's many different ways to skin the cat. Um, yeah, I think that's the sort of long-winded answer of explaining remarketing to you.
Okay, great. So then there are a lot of new ad formats are coming, like Performance Max. Then there are demand generation ads, and Google might be experimenting with a lot of other ad formats. They are trying to be a copycat of Facebook in terms of placement of ads everywhere.
Mhm.
So how do you see that evolving? Is Performance Max really going to take over, or the search is the primary ad revenue for Google?
So, with the way things have been going lately, I totally see Performance Max becoming the number one campaign type for Google going forward. I think they've made an effort to consolidate as much as they can into Performance Max. They've really nudged people into adopting Performance Max. They've also deprecated other campaign types. So I wouldn't be surprised if, somewhere down the line, we can't say exactly how long that's going to take. Maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. Who knows, right? Um, but I think that's the direction we're heading into. Absolutely. Um, and as to the thing you said about Google trying to be a copycat of maybe paid social platforms like Meta or Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that, that's totally true. Um, Demand generation is absolutely a thing that I would encourage brands who thrive on paid social to try if it's their first foray into Google. That's something that can quite easily be adapted if you have working creatives, if you know like the messaging and the offer and the angle, like all that stuff you've tested already on Meta, you can quite easily cross over to Google Ads and try demand generation, for example.
Okay, how do you see the Google ad landscape evolving? Is it going to be all the AI everywhere, like in ad production, in creative, in campaign management, or there will be a lot of
It's
human intervention going forward?
it's inevitable. I think it's going to come whether we like it or not. There's going to be an event called Google Marketing Live on the 21st of May, and by reading the blog posts from the VP of Google Ads, who's going to hold the keynote, I fully anticipate like loads of AI being released and peddled, as was the case last year already. So they're they're actively inserting AI everywhere in the funnel, everywhere in the campaign creation process, everywhere in the creative creation process. So that's absolutely going to come. And that's not to say that it's a set it and forget it solution then after the fact. It's still gonna take human oversight and a human to 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 set guardrails for the algorithm, um, to steer the whole machine in the right direction. But it's not going to involve people being in the account all day, every day, pushing buttons and making things happen.
True. And then a lot of new things are coming. Like there are a lot of new ad formats, and attribution is also significantly changing. There is the cookies are going away anyway,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then there are new formats or new way of tracking the ad performance. I think in the May keynote, one of the thing that the Google ad rep is going to address is how attribution is going to evolve in future.
Yes, absolutely. You said the very important thing, cookie deprecation, I think, and privacy laws are changing everywhere. So we need to be able to adapt. And that's one thing I actually alluded to earlier when I said that we used to be able to sell to clients, that notion that everything we did was attributable and we could like totally show like our nice ROAS. But I think in fact that was never the case really, because you could never follow around a user because they were logged in from different devices, from different IP addresses, stuff like that. So that was never really the whole picture. So what we should have been doing all the time was to look at attribution holistically. So what happens if I increase spend in one channel? What happens to my bottom line? But that wasn't the case because everything was always like in the silo, right? Paid social, paid search, SEO, website team, email, CRM. Um, so that's one thing I encourage people to really dig into, like that reporting should be consolidated in one place, and we shouldn't try to take credit for all the conversions that happen on the website.
Awesome. And how do you see role of agency owners? My point of view is that Google and Facebook see agency as kind of a necessary evil. One, because they save money for the client by not implementing all the 100% recommendations by Google ad account. And second
True.
is, once the agency fees is removed, maybe the business owner would end up spending more on Google ads because they are not paying to the agency.
So yeah, that's a very blunt way to put it, but I tend to agree with you. Yes. So if search is sort of saturated, right? How many more clicks can you drive? And of course, Google is trying to actively drive more clicks through paid ads. But then, what are the other things that they can do to increase their revenue? Because they need to please their shareholders. Um, so for the longest time, I've actually seen the role of agencies as being the steward of client financials, sort of, um, because as you said, it's it's our obligation to drive as much revenue for them as we possibly can. Um, by proxy, as much profit probably, because that's what's going to pay their bills. And we have the obligation to protect them from wasteful spend in the ad account. And Google totally doesn't want that. Google wants more spend in the ad account, because only if people click on more ads will Google get paid more money. So that's sort of that disconnect that is happening between Google and agency owners. Agency owners are disgruntled by some of the tactics that Google have pulled in the last couple of years, and Google, I think, is still saying that they value agency relationships and that they actively want to encourage agencies to be working with their reps directly. Um, that's somewhat a, I think, a delicate balancing act sometimes. Like, when do you take reps calls? What recommendations do you actually implement? How do you communicate to Google that not all recommendations they give you are actually good recommendations for that specific ad account? Yeah, it's complicated to say
That's
things
so
short.
true. Sometimes those recommendations are like total rubbish and you
Oh
don't
yeah.
really want to implement them.
Mm.
But when the business owner is not very clear about what exactly needs to be done, the only focus they have is they want to 100% get the 100% optimization score in Google, because according to them that is the best way of running Google ads.
So, in which case, it's your responsibility or your job to educate a brand owner on what metrics are actually useful, what metrics are just vanity metrics. Optimization score can be useful at times. It can be very detrimental to your account success at times. Implement broad match. I don't think that's a good recommendation if your like monthly budget is $3,000, right? You're better served by just running exact and a little bit of shopping, for instance. But
So
yeah,
true. So, as an agency owner, you are also a Google Ad consultant, and you are talking to a lot of agency owners. I'm also one of the agency owners. How do you see our future in, at least in the Google Ads field,
I think
maybe 5 years down the line?
there'll always be a future for agencies and for agency owners. Um, but that future is only guaranteed if you can communicate the value that you bring to your clients. So the value that you bring to your clients used to be push buttons, make things happen, sales happen, conversions, client makes money. Um, that value now is more in data manipulation, tracking, um, steering the machine in the right direction. So if you're still an agency owner that employs people who just, do changes every day in the ad account, then you're not going to be in business in 5 years. Absolutely not. Um, I think the only way to stay in business is to embrace the changes that are coming our way and trying to make the best of it. And by embracing, I mean finding ways to work with Performance Max, finding ways to work with automation and generative AI, and still driving good enough results for your clients to make it worthwhile running Google Ads.
Okay, and how do you see the Google partner programs? Are they really helpful for agency owners in long
So I've
run?
ne- so I've never been a Google partner, and I don't think they used to be helpful. Back in the day, like you had stellar support, and Google reps would come to your office and work directly with you on the accounts and help you out and make things happen. From what I read, from friends in the industry who have actively decided to not renew their partner status, it's not that much anymore. It's just a another sales vehicle for Google to implement recommendations in clients' accounts. And as we established, that's more often than not detrimental to the results that you want to drive for your clients. And that's why many Google partners are very disgruntled with that part of the program for sure.
True, and that is the reason why there is a point of conflict between Google and the agency owners, because that's exactly where agency owners are going to hit, right?
Exactly, like we said, Google needs to make more money. Agency owners need to
Save
um, pro-
money.
save money or protect their clients' interests. So
True.
there are certain confines of or metrics that they need to hit, and you can't always hit these metrics while just spending more. So yeah, that's sort of the source of conflict, I want to say, between agencies and Google.
True. So agencies owner have always have to strike a balance between client interest and how they deal with Google as a partner. So definitely something which cannot be controlled by just one side, and Google trying to be the big brother and bullying people into uh, rec- getting 100% of the recommendations implemented.
Certainly, like if you're interested in retaining your partner status, then that's a
That's
tough
the only
balance to
way.
that's a tough balance to strike. Um, if you couldn't care less, then I mean that gives you a lot more freedom in how to deal this whole Google agency relationship sort of situation.
Okay, so before we actually close our conversation,
Yeah.
what are some of the things you would like to share with the agency owners or people who want to succeed in the field of Google Ads over the period?
So in order to be successful, you always need to try to evolve constantly, learn new things, keep your finger on the pulse of the industry, join lots of forums, you know, brainstorm with other agency owners and practitioners, go on Twitter, follow the hashtag PPC chat, read industry newsletters, and most importantly, don't trust blindly what Google is telling you. Totally, do experiments. I used to be one of those people who hated broad match. It was objectively not very good 5 years ago, but that's changed a lot. So if a thing didn't work last year, that doesn't suggest it's not going to work this time around. So always go back, test features, try to implement the new features that Google is releasing, test them out, and then come to your own conclusions. I think that's the best recommendation I can give to you. And then really learn how to control the AI and which features to adopt and which features you shouldn't adopt. And just take it from there, I guess.
Great. So I think that's the best way to survive in the ever evolving world. You
Mm,
have to always be a knowledge worker. There's no other way around.
absolutely. And I mean, agency owners are in a great situation to be doing this, right? They see different accounts, they see a lot of accounts, they see small spend accounts, they see accounts with big spend, they see shopping campaigns, they see search campaigns, they see e-commerce, they see lead generation. So like they're uniquely positioned to help their clients because they have this wealth of experience. Also, ideally, if you have your processes in place, you're absolutely going to make mistakes. So that's one thing I always tell my clients. I'm absolutely positively going to make mistakes, but I'm just going to spot them much faster because I've done this so many, many, many times. And that's really what I'm being paid for. To test rapidly, make mistakes much much faster, find them, fix them, and then improve. And make sure that mistakes don't repeat themselves.
All right. So before we conclude our conversation, what would be your parting remark?
you caught me. You caught me with my pants down on that one. What would be my parting remark? I mean, enjoy the process. Google Ads is great. It's got the potential to make you and your clients money. So that's great. It's still the best ad platform out there, in my point of view, where you should be spending your money. Uh, and if you spend it efficiently and well, then it really is a lot of fun. Um, Also, there's going to be lots of mistakes, but you shouldn't be discouraged or think you're a bad marketer because you can't get a campaign off the ground. Many campaigns fail right out the gate, and it's not always the marketer's fault. So just stick with it. Try to improve a little bit each day, and have fun along the process. That's my parting remark.
Awesome. So I got just one follow up question and then maybe we'll close the conversation. Who are the
Go.
people who you follow personally on specifically to learn Google Ads apart from the Google own account on Twitter?
Oh, there is so many. I mean, I already mentioned the hashtag the PPC chat hashtag. So that's where you will find most of the really good people, gathering and sharing knowledge freely. And then of course there's Ginny Marvin from Google, who is really a good source of knowledge, and also who's going to be able to maybe sometimes support you directly if you have any inquiries. Of course, Solutions 8 are great. They have a superb YouTube channel. John Moran, Marketing O'Clock, has a great YouTube channel. I'm just really, if I get started now, I'll never stop. But maybe I could send you a list afterwards of people I really recommend following.
Yeah, maybe I'll mention all of them in the description of
Yeah,
my
that
Spotify link so
that might be
people
good.
can really follow those.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time, Boris. We would
Hey, thanks.
conclude the conversation here. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to the another episode of 10x Marketer podcast. We are bringing new episodes every week, and we are bringing the marketers who were really able to make 10x, and we are asking them to freely share insights and valuable feedback for all of you. So stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much.